So, yeah, as was stated, we have been married 19 years, close to 19 years. When's our anniversary? Do you know this? I know this.
December 17th.
All right, good job. Good job. Yes. 19 years in December, so we're excited about that. And yes, we have six kids, which is a lot, We didn't always have 6 kids.
That's usually how it works, yeah.
Well, we started out with 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4. But 1, 2, 3, and 4 went pretty quick.
I think we had 4 under 5. I think they were 5 years and under.
Yeah, 4 under 5.
And that's when we quit.
Yes.
We were like, okay, we are done.
She was done.
This is true, yeah.
I was like, let's keep on going, right? We're on a roll here. Like, why stop?
But I won for like 6 years.
7, yeah, 6 or 7 years. Yeah, so we have our oldest 4, which are all girls, are, I said this yesterday, 15, 13, 11, 9. And then we have a boy who's number 5 in us, and he's 2. So we have a 7-year gap from 4 to 5, our 4th to our 5th.
You have totally confused them. There's too many numbers. Yeah, between the number of
4
kids,
girls.
their age.
4, yes. I'm a numbers guy, so yeah. 4 girls, 15, 13, 11, and 9.
Good job, yeah.
Our boy is 2.
Yes.
So there's 7 years in between.
There you go.
And then we have one more girl, Selah, who's the best.
And she was the complete accident.
Yeah, she was
totally done at number 5.
Not planned, but planned by God,
yes,
as we say.
Yes.
But she is the sweetest.
She is.
She's the sweetest.
Hopefully our kids are not watching this. Ever.
Yes. Our other kids have good qualities.
They do, of
they
course.
Do, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But Selah is the sweetest. Yes, she is.
For now. She's
for
one.
now.
We'll see.
For now. Going into marriage, do you think we're going to have 6 kids? Is that?
No way. I thought I'd probably have 3.
3.
Because that's what I grew up with.
Yeah. Do you know what I thought?
You thought 6.
I thought 6.
So, in the end, he won.
Yes. But I was okay with we were going to stop at 4.
Yeah. And then COVID hit. And that's when it changed everything. Yes.
Why did COVID change?
I know, that's such a weird thing to say. Because we were home. Okay, whenever I say that, you all start giggling. That's not what I mean.
It's kind of what she means.
No,
though.
it's not.
Kind of what she means.
I specifically remember watching all the kids swimming, the 4, and thinking they are such a blessing. And, you know, you're not running around town as much as usual during COVID. You're all stuck at home and just enjoying them so much. And so slowing down to enjoy them made me think, we should do more of this. Yeah. Kids, having kids, yes.
We should do more of this, yes.
So that's when we went for number 5. I finally was like, okay, I agree. We should have another one. You weren't actually convinced right away.
No, because we stopped for 5 years, 6 years, and I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, so anyway, that's when we brought back in.
So yes, but yeah, we do have 6 kids, which are all a blessing. And just thinking about expectations going in, I was ready for 6 kids. You were ready for 3. And so we had 6. That was good. That was good. And it's still good, right? Aren't you glad you did not get what you wanted?
Absolutely. Yes.
Because in the last 3 would not be here, and that would be tough to tell them.
We wouldn't have Selah.
Yeah, we wouldn't have Selah. That'd not be
6.
good. Yeah. But just even thinking about marriage, I think we all have different expectations going into marriage. Right? Why are you getting married? What is your expectation in marriage? And for me, I guess my expectations was I wanted to get married because I wanted you, right? I wanted to get married for me. And I don't think a lot of us realize that when we get married, we are thinking this is a noble thing and we're going to get married and this is something that people praise and think is good. But when reflecting back, my marriage, right, why I wanted to get married was because this is what I wanted. Right? I wanted to be with her. She was going to make me happy. This is going to be good for me. And just that expectation, marriage is about me, which in hindsight, marriage is not about me, and it never should have been about me. But I guess that was an expectation I had going in. Any expectations you had going into marriage?
Yeah, I think I had that expectation more subtly. But what stands out to me the most is I remember thinking marriage would just be perfect, amazing, no problems, no troubles.
Expectations met.
Yes. But in a very prideful way, because I basically thought I would make the marriage amazing. Like, I thought I would do all the
She's doing a
wifey
good
things
job.
and I would love it and I would never complain and life would be amazing because I'm going to be an amazing wife. I learned that's not true. Like, I was greatly humbled in marriage. But yeah, it's harder than I thought it would be. Better, but harder.
Better, but harder. That's good. I, I think that the thing about marriage, when we think about marriage, and we might have our expectations going into it, what it's all about, what it's for, what I'm going to be like, to recalibrate our mindset. What are the expectations of marriage? What should the expectations actually be? And where are we getting those expectations from? And if we really think about it, the one who designed marriage and created marriage and purposed marriage is God, and he had a design behind it. He had certain expectations for a marriage, and for us to recalibrate our mindset to think, well, what does God say about marriage? What does God want marriage to be? How am I supposed to be in marriage? I should align to God, not God align to me in my marriage. And so even to think about marriage from the beginning, when God created everything, 6 days, God created everything. In Genesis chapter 2, we get this detailed creation account. And we see at the last day, God created man first. And God makes this comment after he created man. He says, it's not good that man shall be alone. Right? So after every day, God says, this is good, this is good, this is good. And then God created man, and it's like, well, this is not good yet. The 6th day is not good yet because man is alone. And he says, I will create a helper fit for him. And so the way it works is all these animals go before Adam, before man, and Adam sees, okay, there is no helper fit for me. Right? And so God takes the rib out of man's side and creates woman, and Adam is, wow, woman. You know, she's taken out of man. That's why she's going to be called woman. And this was a helper fit for him. And so this biblical narrative of God's creation saying man was created, and he is supposed to lead and guard the garden. He was supposed to be the protector, the leader, the provider in all of this. And then it says, well, he can't do this alone. He actually needs help. And when we think of this word, a help or a helper, that's the role of the wife. And it could be seen as a derogatory term. Oh, you're the helper as the wife. I was just even with my little kid yesterday, we went shopping, and it's like, hey, you want to go help daddy go get the groceries out of the car? Come help me. Right? And that's the way that we could think about, oh, you're the helper. You're just kind of helping. But that's not the biblical definition, the biblical mindset of what a helper is. All throughout the Old Testament, the one who is often called the helper is God. God is the helper, right? David proclaims, the big king in the Old Testament is, God, you are my helper. He's the helper of Israel. He's the one that comes and he helps those who are weak. And in the same way, God says, well, man, he needs help. He is not sufficient in his own. He needs someone to come alongside and to complement, to complete, to provide what is lacking here, and that is the woman, the wife in this. And so the unity between the husband and the wife, God at the very end says, wow, this is good. This is very good. When we have man and we have woman as the husband and the wife, both knowing their roles, coming together in a single purpose. And he says, this is good. This marriage covenant, what I've created, this is a good thing. And so there's lots of different aspects that we can try to dissect what is good about marriage. But, I mean, when you think about marriage and God's design of marriage, what are the good things? What is good about marriage?
Lots of things, of course. But what comes to mind first is with that phrase that it's not good that man should be alone. And that just reminds me of the companionship in marriage, just that best friend that you get to have and it's supposed to be till death do you part, right? You have different best friends throughout your life and seasons, and you always want that friend that you find that can last a really long time. And you may or may not find that, but when you get married, you're hoping to find that person that can be that bestie in a sense till death do you part. And so that's one of the things I love the most, is just that companionship, that closeness. And I think it's especially seen when you see older couples and they've done that well. They've really developed that relationship, they've invested, and they just make sense together after living a whole life together. His parents, they've been married, I think, about 45 years, and they're such a good example of that. They do all these different kinds of things together. They take walks together, they do house projects together, they travel together, and they just make sense. Two becoming one is just seen in the way that it's like they're one person. Of course, they have their own lives, but there's just a deep connectedness there. Which, of course, there's a connectedness in all kinds of ways in marriage. It's beautiful and wonderful. The two becoming one relationally, emotionally, physically, and intimacy, all that is, I think, what we all long for. So, of course, that's good.
But I guess there's a potential problem. What if you're married and he is not your bestie? You find out, you get married to this guy. He'll remain nameless. And there's some things that you don't like about him.
Yeah.
Like maybe he smacks his food.
That would drive me
I don't know
crazy
who would do
if someone
that,
did that.
right?
Yeah.
That could annoy you. Would that bother you?
Yeah. Well, in one sense, that's part of the beauty of the companionship, is if you really have that commitment till death do us part, it becomes more beautiful when you work through those things and you're still committed. So I think all friendships take work, right? I mean, every friendship we've ever had that has value is going to take some work. And sometimes you get closer too through the work. You think when you have a fight with a best friend and you actually work through it, you probably get closer with them because of that. So probably the same thing. If we can work through it and grow through it, it becomes even better.
Right, and I think that is an important mindset, is if we're talking about till death does us part, we're in this. No matter what, we're in this, right? And so if there are things that I do that I shouldn't do that irritate you or bother you or I'm mean to you, it matters, but it doesn't matter in the sense of our relationship. Why? Because we're in this. We are going to work through it no matter what, because this relationship is not going to end, unlike any other potential relationship, right? Any other friendship. Something could happen, and we're like, no, like we're just going to part ways. In this relationship, if we're both doing it the biblical way and says we're committed, this is a covenant that is going to last until death, then we're going to work through issues. We're going to work through problems. And as you said, I think it was good that it could even strengthen our relationship and how we work through it. One of the things that we committed to on our wedding day, our vows that we said, part of our vows refer to Proverbs 27 that says, as iron sharpens iron, so let one man sharpen another. And our commitment is we want to be that iron in each other's life where we're going to sharpen each other. And if you think about sharpening each other or being pruned, a plant being pruned, that means being cut, which doesn't feel good, but is ultimately for the plant's good. To say, okay, this partner, my spouse, my wife, she is going to prune me. She's going to sharpen me. That means that she's going to say things to me, right? Speak into my life in a way that might hurt, but ultimately for my good. That is going to grow me. It's going to make me a better man. It's going to make me a better husband. It's going to make me a better father. Why? Because we're going to sharpen each other. That's one of the good things about marriage, even though it's difficult and it's hard, but it's good.
Yeah, and it never gets old and boring in the sense that it just keeps happening. We just keep sharpening each other, for better or for worse. Just thinking the first year of marriage, that was really hard because I think we both had a lot of selfishness that you work out at the beginning of marriage. But then there's different seasons of marriage, or different seasons of life, rather, that bring out new issues in our life, new selfishness things that come up. The littles, right? We have all kinds of challenges with the littles that bring out parts of our character that we learn about each other. And then when kids come and the busyness and then teens come and all of that, we can grow through it because we start having these new weaknesses in a sense that pop up, and we're living life with each other. So we each see each other's weaknesses, and so we can help each other grow. So it's hard, but that's good, right? We want our character to be developed over the years.
And I think the biggest thing to realize why marriage is hard is because she is married to a sinner, right? And I also, I am married to a sinner, surprisingly enough, right? Right. But she is a sinner. She says things that she should not say, does things that she should not do, thinks things that she should not think, and I do the exact same thing. And if she was perfect or if I was perfect, right, we would have a perfect marriage. There would be no problems. There would be no complications. There would be no arguments. There would be no conflict, no tension whatsoever. But the fact is that we're both imperfect on so many different levels. We want to grow. We want to get better. We want to sharpen each other. We're committed to that. But we do things that we should not do. And the question is, well, how do we respond to that? Right? How do we grow? How do we make our marriage stronger even when I say things to you that are rude or unthoughtful? I don't do it that much, right? But I do it, right? And I probably say things more that hurt her that I don't even realize she doesn't say it, right? But we want to say we want our marriage to actually grow. We're committed, right? It's not just and here's one thing about counseling that I don't like, right? When people are in they're married together, right? And they're saying, well, we're not going to get a divorce. So therefore, because we're not going to get a divorce, everything else is okay. Right? It's like, we're not going to get a divorce, but we will scream at each other, we'll belittle each other, we'll nag each other, we'll berate one another, we will be passive-aggressive to each other, but we're not going to get a divorce, so God's okay with us. We're doing okay. All of the other stuff, right, is bad too. It's not about not just getting a divorce, hey, we're in it till death does us part. So what are we doing actually right now? How do we work together now in a way that's going to make our marriage not just last till the very end, we're just going to grind it out. No, but how do we make our marriage beautiful and good and we appreciate one another right now? How do we do that? Or do we do that?
I think realizing...
Not a really strong answer here. Come on.
Realizing it's worth it, right? It's worth it for us individually. It's worth it for our marriage and for our relationship. It's worth it to please God, to live the way He wants us to live. So realizing it's worth it makes us do things different, makes us make different decisions, makes us prioritize things differently, makes us think different of the other person. It changes everything if we think this is a relationship worth investing in.
And I think that's the key thing right there. Your marriage should be your most important relationship. Right? Humanly speaking, right? More important than any other relationship that you have. Okay? And all of you women here with young kids that take up a lot of your time, a lot of your energy, a lot of your focus, a lot of your love and your attention go to your kids. They are not the most important people in your life. Right? Your spouse, your wife, my wife, your husband needs to be the most important person in your life. Because one day soon, hopefully for some of mine, they're going to be out of my house, right? They're going to be gone, right? She is still going to be there, right? But I want my kids out of my house one day, right? And since my kids have been young, I tell them this. I say, I love you so much. I love your mom more than you, right? I want my kids to know I love their mom, my wife, more than them, right? She is more of a priority in my life. Do I love my kids? Oh, sure, I love my kids, but I love her more, right? I want my kids to realize that, to understand that. Why? Because she's with me till the end, right? This relationship is more important than the relationship with my kids. One day I want my kids to be married, right? and for them to have husbands, and my one boy to have a wife, and for them to have a tight relationship with their spouse and to care about their family and their kids. But we're going to be together until I die or she dies. I mean, that's the commitment. And so I want the primacy, the primary relationship, the most important relationship is my spouse, my wife. She needs to realize it. She needs to feel it. And I want my kids to like, oh, absolutely, yeah. Dad's in love with mom. Mom is the most important person in Dad's life. It's all about mom. It's all about my wife.
And if you think for a second that makes your kids feel insecure, I think that's totally wrong. I think that brings a security to your children to know that their parents love each other. And of course, they know Dad loves them. I mean, Dad would die for them. Dad loves them every day. He pours out love. They're annoyed by his love, right? So of course, we love our children tremendously. But the idea is to make sure you love your spouse more than that. So you have an abundant, overflowing love for your spouse that is greater than your love for your kids, even though you love your kids more than you could possibly love your kids, right? It doesn't mean you love your kids any less.
Yeah, and I think so. For your kids to actually see that, like, what do they need to see you doing so they actually see mom loves Dad? Mom is all about Dad. What are some things, practical things?
Yeah, that's important. I think for this season of life in particular, having all the littles is hard. This is a hard season of life. And, as we talked about, we did the 4, and then we took this massive break. And in that time, I forgot how hard the littles was. And so if any older person looks at you and is like, come on, it's not that hard, just know that they forgot. Because it is easy to forget. It only took me 6 years to forget how hard this was. But it's survival. It's crazy. It's madness. I feel like one of them is going to die every day. Like they're falling off things, pulling things down, hitting each other. I mean, I'm working so hard to raise these kids up and it's chaos. So with that said, it is hard to invest in your marriage when you are tired and exhausted and you've been, going all day. By the time he gets home, to now prioritize him when the kids are still screaming or, whatever. It's hard. So I guess I'd start it with that. What was the question?
It is hard to prioritize your marriage.
Yeah. So how?
But how practically, right? Because it is hard. You are working all day, and then I come home, and I don't want you to think, and maybe you do. Here's the 7th kid that I got to take care of, right?
I don't think that.
Here's another person that wants my attention. Another person that I need to feed. Another person. It's just another person, right?
And with that, I don't think that, but that makes me think we are so willing to sacrifice for our kids. And so that's kind of a bummer thing we sometimes do to our spouse, where we would get up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and we're not going to hold that against our baby or our toddler if we sacrifice for them all throughout the night. And then our husband wants a hug when he gets home. And we're like, I'm busy, I'm tired, When they have, whether it's little needs or big needs or whatever, we could be irritated by them in a way that we're not irritated by our children. And so I think that's something to just, do that little switch in our minds where it's like, why would we be against them? This is our partner, our buddy, our best friend, the one we're going to do life with forever. Why would I be irritated at him when I'm not irritated at my children? Not to say we don't get irritated at our children, but we're willing, right? We're willing to sacrifice and we don't wake up the next morning holding a grudge. So to switch that in our mindsets, to be willing to sacrifice in the same kind of way.
Right. And I think with the busyness of little kids, you have to, if you're going to prioritize your spouse, right, you got to plan for it. You got to say, okay, this is a commitment. I'm gonna make this happen. So what are we going to do to make this happen? And because if not, right, I'm going to get home and she's been busy all day and she's tired and I'm tired from work and it's like, okay, we're just going to try to manage the home, get the kids down for bed and then do whatever we need to do to relax and then we're going to go to bed and then it's going to repeat rather than how are we investing in each other and to make some commitments like, we're going to go for a walk together. We're going to plan to go for a walk. We're going to put the kids in the stroller, and we're going to go for a walk. Why? so we can invest, we can talk to each other. That might be a good opportunity for talk, to catch up on the day, see how things are going, but we're going to go for a walk.
Which, to make that successful, sometimes it's good to plan ahead, right? You know, have a bag of snacks, have endless snacks for the children, right? Because it's worth it to invest and to talk and to really have as much uninterrupted time as possible. So I try to they have the water there, they have the snack there, they have the blanket there, they have, all the different things that would hopefully make a walk successful. Because as simple as that sounds, that's not always successful with a 2- and 1-year-old. But you do your best, you put the work in ahead of time, so hopefully it can be.
Going out, going on a date, right? And gals, it would be great if your husbands were here. I'd tell your husbands, take your wives out on dates. To go on a date every single week. Take them out. Do it as you would before you're married, right? Take them out on a date. They're not here, right? And you're the helpmate. You can help your husband by saying, let's go out on a date, right? That would be a great thing. Well, what about kids? You got kids, and well, get a babysitter. Well, we can't afford it. Babysitters are expensive. Exchange numbers with somebody at your table and say, hey, we'll watch your kid on Wednesday night. Will you watch our kid on Thursday night? Right? So you can go out on a date with your husband, right, and allow someone else to watch your kid. And so your focus can solely be on your husband. Right? That would be a great thing to connect and to say, I'm going to prioritize him and time with him. And so I'm going to get rid of the little rats for a little bit, right? At least for one night. And so I can focus on my husband. I can focus on my wife. Yeah.
Now, one practical idea to add to that, it's not rocket science, but to pay for a babysitter, first to think you're willing to pay for a lot of things, right? So say it's a worthwhile investment, but do it at a time where you don't have to pay for a lot of hours. So say the babysitter comes at 6, and then if your kids go down at 7:30, come home at 7:45, right? And then continue date night watching a movie or, doing something at home. Continue date night, like don't go do the dishes or something. But then you only paid for whatever, 2 hours or something. It doesn't have to be a massive night out. It's just a little night out where you get dressed up a little bit, just focus on each other, go home, continue it. The kids are already in bed, and, let it continue from there.
All right. Hey, I think that one of the key things when you think about having a good marriage is going back to God's design in marriage, putting a husband and a wife together, and the roles that we have as the wife being that helper and the husband being this leader, and saying, okay, this is what you're doing this for is not ultimately for you. You want to live and do this for each other. Right? There's this element where God says, I want you to have a focus on the other person, to care about their needs, their wants, their preferences above your own, right? To have this sacrificial, selfless mindset. That what Heather was talking about just earlier is how much do you sacrifice? How selfless are you for your little ones? And I imagine, right, all of you are great moms. Say that if your little one is up at the night, you're willing to get up. They're throwing up. You're willing to help them. You're up with them. You're feeding them. You're doing all this stuff. You're changing dirty diapers for them, right? You're doing all this stuff for your little ones. Why? Because you are selfless. You are so sacrificial. You care about their interests, right? And that might be easier for you to do for your little ones, but God calls us to do that for each other, and especially in marriage to say, I'm going to put her interests above my own. I'm going to care about her needs. And God models this. I mean, the greatest model is God being the loving God that he is, says, humanity, they are in need, and I am going to actually sacrifice myself by sending a gift, Jesus Christ. As the most well-known Bible verse, John 3:16, for God so he loved the world that he gave his one and only son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. That mankind was in need as sinners separated from God. He says, I'm going to send Jesus to come to live for you, to die for you, right? Pay the penalties of your sin, to defeat death, because I care about your interests. And if we understand that aspect, right, that one thing, God cares and he loves us so much that he's willing to do something for us that we couldn't do. And he says, now what I want you to do is to model that in your marriage. to have this mindset. I want to care for my wife. I want to be selfless. I want to see what her needs are. I want there to be this sacrificial, selfless love, because when she's loved, right, I'm getting what I want, right, which is for her to be loved and cherished. And when her needs are met, right, that's actually a good thing for me. Why? Because we're one. Right? I heard someone say this one time, that if there's a fight, if there's a difficulty, right, and your wife, who you're one with, that's 50%, right? If she gets what you want, well, that's the majority, right? So then you both get what you want, right? So if she gets what she wants, then that's great, right? For me, right? If I get what I want, she should be like, oh, that's great, because he got what he wanted, right? Because we're in this together, right? There's this selfless, sacrificial mindset that we need to have. You agree with that?
I do.
Good.
Yeah.
How are you selfless and sacrificial?
Oh, that's like the weirdest question to ask. It's like, how am I awesome? Let me tell you how awesome I am. No.
And here's the thing. There are so many ways that she is awesome that I don't even know, and I don't give her credit for. Right? And I imagine there are so many ways that you all are awesome that your husband does not even know, doesn't acknowledge, doesn't give you credit for. Okay? And if you're trying to do this, right, be awesome and being selfless and caring about his needs and putting his needs above your needs so he will notice, right, you're going to be miserable, because he's not going to see all of it. He's not going to know all of it. And you're going to be like, what? You didn't notice that? You didn't notice that? Like, because you do so much already. But if your mindset is, I want to do this for something even greater, which is not him. I'm going to do it despite of him. I'm going to do it for God, because what he has done for me, that's worth it. I want to do this because God has designed me to do this. And there is value, there is worth in me saying, I am going to, from the woman's standpoint, I'm going to be that helpmate, even if he doesn't even notice it. I'm going to help him so much and care about him and prioritize him. And if he doesn't notice, it doesn't even matter. Why? Because God notices. And I'm going to do it ultimately for God. But guess what? Our marriage is going to benefit from it. Even if he doesn't even say anything and you're, no, he's just taking advantage of me. I'm a doormat. It's like God sees everything. Nothing that you do is going to be overlooked. Right? And even if he doesn't notice, God does, and it's going to be a benefit to your marriage. And so I'm sorry for all the things that I don't notice. Right? But, I mean, there are plenty of things that I do notice that she does that she normally would not do because she's thinking of me. And one thing that comes to my mind, my wife, she is dairy-free. She can't eat dairy, right? It's not good for her stomach. I have dairy. Right? And one thing that I eat as a staple of my diet is yogurt. I breakfast, lunch, dinner. I'll eat it every single meal, right? And so because I eat this all the time, what she's decided to start doing is she makes yogurt for me. And it's the amazing thing is that I'll open up the fridge, right? And it's always there. Not always, but most of the time it's there. It's like, I just finished it yesterday, right? There was none there, but I opened it up today and it's stocked again. How does that happen, right? Because she's doing that, not for her, not even for our kids, right? It's for me. She's thinking, well, what is his needs? How am I going to please him, put his interests above my own? She's thinking about me during the day, right? Which is something I appreciate, that I value, and it draws me in. It connects us because she's putting my preference above other things that need to happen in the day.
That makes me think of one thing we were talking about is just with the stage of littles. You're all married to different husbands with different desires, different wants, different things they care about. He obviously loves yogurt, but what is it that your husband loves? And thinking we have limited energy and we're giving a lot away. So maybe what we need to do is be a little more strategic at times and say, husband, what is it that you care most about? How can I show you love? What would encourage you? And maybe it's the clean house, or maybe it's not, right? Maybe he really doesn't care, and you're doing that for you, not for him. Or, maybe it's the meal, but maybe it's not. Maybe that's just what you enjoy doing. And so there's some things that we could learn to let go of during this crazy season, where we say, okay, that's for a different era of my life that I'm going to focus on all those things. What are just some key things that would show my husband that I love him and I care about him and I want to invest in him, and then make sure those are a part of your regular routine.
Every husband is not the same, right? So they're going to value different things, want different things, and every wife is not the same too. And so, if your husbands were here, which they are not here right now, I would be telling them, how are you going to love your wives? How are you going to be sacrificial? How are you going to put her needs above your own? How are you going to figure out and be strategic to care for them, to know them? They're not here, right? And so, and here's the thing: your job is to do your job regardless of if your husband does his job, right? Your husband's job is to do his job regardless of if his wife does his job. It's your job alone, right? And so you cannot say, well, I'm gonna do what I need to do as long as he does what he needs to do. And I give this illustration in counseling is where a lot of times the husband's like, okay, I'm gonna go 50%, right? And if my wife goes 50%, right, then we're gonna meet right here in the middle, and then we're gonna be connected, and we're gonna be one, and everything's gonna be good. I'm gonna go that halfway, she's gonna go halfway, and then we're gonna meet, and then that's when things are good. What's the problem with that? The problem is the husband doesn't always go halfway. The wife doesn't always go halfway. He might go 20%, and then you might go 70%, and then you're still not connected, right? He might go 40%, you might go 40%, and you're still not connected. The idea is I'm going to go all the way across, and I'm going to meet him where he's at. He doesn't have to do I'm going to go all the way, okay? And then if he goes 10%, well, you've already overlapped. You're connected. If he goes 20%, you've already overlapped. If he goes all the way and you both go all the way, you're connected. Your job is, I'm going to go all the way. His job is, I'm going to go all the way. Right? And so regardless, because you're both not going to do it perfectly, if you say, my job is I'm going to go all the way to meet him, you are going to connect. And that's what you want to do. You want to connect and say, I want to meet her needs. I want to fulfill what she wants. I want to be there for her. I want to support her. I want to encourage her. And she should want to be there for me, encourage me, and go all the way regardless. Because if you're waiting for your spouse, right, you're waiting for your husband to say, okay, I'm just waiting for it. I'm not going to do it until he does it. You're going to be waiting a long time, and there's just going to be this downward spiral, right? Where he didn't meet my expectations, so I'm not gonna do what I need to do until he does what he needs to do, right? You got to say it doesn't matter what he does. I'm gonna do it because it's the right thing to do, right? I'm gonna go all in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
True.
good.
I was thinking of our kids. I mean, I think we see this somewhat displayed with our children when they're having a fight. We want someone to step up and be kind, right? And so maybe it's you that has to do the 100%, and you feel like, wait, that's not fair. But ultimately, when you're looking at two kids that are fighting, that's what you want one of them to do. You want one of them to say, I'm going to give the toy to my brother, right? I'm willing to share. And then usually that does have an effect on the sibling, and not always, but it often does soften up the other sibling to where they can work together better. So we see that displayed. It's just hard to do when it's ourselves.
What are some of the problems that you see as you talk to other women, other wives, that prevents, I guess, them from jumping all in? What's a roadblock?
Yeah, I definitely see us holding grudges. I think that's an easy thing to do, probably in any relationship, but especially in our marriage. Holding grudges on the little things, and then, of course, the big things. And I often think of this illustration of the snowball. A snowball effect is what I call it, where there's a problem that starts, whatever it is, whether it's big or small. Like it could be something as simple as he said something really mean to me 5 years ago or something. And then that starts going down the hill, and it starts picking up speed, and it starts gaining more snow. In other words, this problem, such as he said something mean to me, every time he now says a little something, I add it to the snowball because I'm sensitive to it, right? So I'm really aware of this one issue, and so it just keeps getting bigger and bigger over the years because you become hypersensitive to this thing you've been offended by because you've held a grudge, because you haven't forgiven, and so it becomes a big issue, what might have started as like a medium issue.
And it could be something as simple and as silly as the dishwasher. Because there's the right way and a wrong way to load the dishwasher. Everybody's aware of this, right? There is the right way.
I am not aware of
and
this.
the wrong way. My wife, she does it the wrong way. And I do it the right way, right? There's certain ways that you do it. You organize it, you put the silverware up, or do you face it down? And where do you put the plates, and where do you put the bowls? And it's kind of depending on what dishwasher, where things should go. But there is a right way to do it rather than just throw everything in there, right? That's obviously wrong, right? We don't just throw things in the dishwasher. So early on in our marriage, I was trying to be a loving husband, to speak hard truths, to be an iron, to sharpen her, to correct her on the way that she was loading the dishwasher.
I told you that first year was hard. It was.
That did not go really well. That is something that this morning we even talked about to our kids.
I did not talk about. Right. All the children were in the room, and he's like, all right, you're all here. Let's talk about this dishwasher.
Because it's not super important, but it is kind of important, right? I mean, so over the course of time, I've tried to say less and less and less about the dishwasher because it's not that important. And so I say less about it, and then when I get home, I just open the dishwasher, I reorganize it to make sure it's right. And my wife, what she tries to do before I get home is start the dishwasher so I can't open it because it's already going.
It's such a waste of time to reorganize it. There's 100 other things to do.
But something as simple as a dishwasher can, my opinions that are almost fact about how to do it the right way, can irritate you or did irritate you and bother you, and can easily be something that is like that snowball effect where it's that one thing is like, why is he so lame about the dishwasher, right? Oh, and now he's so lame he made this other comment about my cooking, right? Oh, and why is he so lame when he gets home, right? He didn't even offer to help with the little ones, and I've been working with the little ones all day. Or why is he so lame when I've been here with the little ones and I'm cooking, then he just went home and he just sat down on the couch. And it's just one little thing after another, and then all of a sudden there's this big snowball, right, which has caused this huge separation in our marriage. And over the course of time, it's like, how did we even get here? It's one thing after another. There was bitterness, there was resentment, there was no forgiveness, there was no communication. We didn't talk about anything, and then all of a sudden we're on two different pages. We're just running around trying to manage the household, but we're not married. We're just roommates in a home with little ones we're caring for, right? So we got to work through that, and we got to say, how do we reverse that cycle? How do we change? How do we change?
Yeah, it's hard. I think one thing is just being more gracious, being gracious with him the way I want him to be gracious with me. Because, of course, I should realize I have my own faults. I have my own things that could make him irritated. And I hope he's gracious. I hope he doesn't always hold those things against me. And when he sees me, he's not thinking of whatever it is that bugs him. So I should certainly do that to him as well as have that graciousness.
Yeah, it's the forgiveness, right? And again, just from a Christian mindset, this is so important to realize how much you have been forgiven, right? If you have been forgiven by a holy God for all of your sins, and that Jesus paid the penalty of your sins, in his love, he satisfied the just retribution, the penalty, and you've been forgiven of everything that you've done. And God says, well, I want you to forgive your spouse. There's nothing that he has done that compares to what we have done before holy God. Can you forgive him? You might, well, I haven't done as, he's harmed me more than I've harmed him. He said more mean things. We can't go back and forth and say, well, who's wronged each other more and who's winning. We both lose in that category, right? We both lose in that situation, right? I heard it said one time is when we have bitterness and we have anger and we have resentment and we withhold forgiveness and we're trying to punish the other person. We're trying to kill the other person by drinking poison ourselves. How foolish is that, right? Our marriage is worse off when we are angry and we are bitter. Instead of saying, I'm going to get over it, right? Because being angry, is that good for you? And holding on, I'm going to be bitter, and I'm going to be upset, and I'm going to hold on to that, I'm going to make him pay, and it makes your marriage worse. Rather than say, hey, I'm going to be forgiving. How often? I'm going to continue to forgive. I'm going to continue to overlook offenses. I'm going to communicate, and we're going to work through things, but I'm going to be gracious. I'm going to be forgiving. I'm going to treat him exactly the way that I would want him to treat me in that way. It's so hard to do, so easy to say, but you got to be committed to that and say, that's what I want to do, because that's going to grow and strengthen our marriage.
Yeah. Similarly, I guess one like minor, I don't know, when it comes to the little stuff. So we're talking, of course, about forgiving. That usually means we've really been offended. But there's a lot of stuff in marriage. It's just the tiny stuff where we should probably all, including myself, learn to assume the best about our spouse. It's so easy to have a little thing happen and to assume that he had a bad heart in it. Like, he's late from work. I told him we were going to have dinner at this time. And so instead of assuming the best, like he must have had a really important meeting, or he was having a conversation with somebody, or it was something that was important, I just assumed that he was thoughtless, that he didn't care, he didn't think about me or whatever. Like, it's so easy to go way far thinking wrong things that we don't even know are true, or he didn't do things the way you asked him to, or he forgot about this or that. And how many times, do we do the same thing? Can we just assume the best? And of course, we might learn that maybe they did do something wrong, and then that's when we move to the bigger step of really forgiving. But before we even have to get to that, sometimes it doesn't need to go that far. It doesn't need to be something that we hold against them because they didn't actually do anything wrong.
Because he is going to be thoughtless. He's going to say things he shouldn't say. He's going to do things that he shouldn't do. Right? And you can't allow those things when he does something and it is truly wrong. He's harmed you in some way. He's wronged you in some way. For you to hold on to that and grow bitter inside, rather than to address it, talk to him about it. And even if he, says, you're making a big deal out of it, just you address it, and then can you move on and can you let go of it and not hold it on? You're holding on to so much. Right, with all the things that you got to do, caring for your little ones, running the home. There's so many things that you do. To have the extra weight, the extra burden of saying, I'm going to hold on to this, you need to let it go. And to be able to think the best and to appreciate the good things that you do see in your husband. I remember getting married. Before I got married, my dad said to me, one piece of marital advice, he says, there's going to be things in your marriage that your wife is going to do that you're not going to like. There's going to be certain things that you're not going to like, things that she does, or maybe things that she says to you, or just habits that she has in her life, and you got an option. You can either choose to think about things that you don't like, or you can choose to think about all the good things, all the things that you love about her. What one are you going to choose to think about? Right? And if I can have that commitment in my mind, I'm going to choose to think about all the things that I love about her, all the good things that she does, all the things that I appreciate, all the things that I value. I'm going to allow that to fill my mind, where I'm not even going to have space in my mind to allow any of the other things, some of the things that I don't like, how she loads the dishwasher, right? It comes in, but then I'm going to quickly it's not even a big deal. It's not a big deal, right? Because there's so many things that I value, so many things that I cherish. And if I can communicate those things, right, that's even better, right? And if you can communicate those things to your husband, right, the things that you value. Right? Someone says, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I don't believe in that, right? Figure out something nice to say, right? There is something nice that you can say. There is some encouraging word that you can say. There is something that you can do to prop him up and to encourage him and to support him. Do that. Work hard, even if it's a bad day and you guys are totally different pages and you said things that you shouldn't have said and he's done, and it's you're on totally different sides of the house at that point in time. Say, I'm going to commit to bring this back together. I'm going to say something that's kind. I'm going to say something that is encouraging, even if it's not met with something from him, right? That he doesn't reciprocate it. I'm going to kill him with kindness. We're running out of time, but here's the last thing that I want to say. Everybody says don't fight in marriage. I want you to fight in your marriage, right? And the Bible tells us how we're supposed to fight. We're supposed to fight evil with good. right? And so if your husband says something evil, if he does something mean, if it's mean-spirited, I want you to fight him with goodness. I want you to fight him with kindness. I want you to go to war and say, I'm going to win this battle by beating him, by being kind and loving and gracious, and fight that fight, right? That's the kind of fight that God wants you to fight in your marriage. And that's going to strengthen your marriage. I think it's going to break him down. It's like, well, I'm so mean to her, but she's constantly kind to me. And I tell the exact same thing to your husbands, right? I want you to fight your wives. I want you to fight her, be kind to her, love her, cherish her, build her up, even if she doesn't reciprocate it, even if she's mean to you, right? So it goes both ways, but you need to fight, and you need to say, I'm gonna win this. I'm gonna win this every single day. And you might have some days that are better than other days, but fight. Fight with kindness, fight with love, overcome evil with good. And we're out of time. Anything you want to say?
That's great.
Okay. All right. Well, let me pray for you, and then we'll let you move on to your next thing here. Let's pray. God, we love you. We are so thankful that we have the opportunity just to share about marriage, our marriage, and we are far from perfect. There's so much that I could do better at as a husband, and we need to grow. And we are thankful for your kindness to us and your forgiveness and your love for us. God, that we want to show that kind of love and kindness in our marriage. I pray for these ladies. I just pray that you would work in their lives, that you would enable them to be the kind of wife, the kind of helpmate that would strengthen their marriage despite what their husband may be, whether he's a great husband or not so great. Just allow them to be a great, loving, kind wife, and that as they do that, it would pull their husband in. They would be such a good helpmate. It would bring encouragement, and it would strengthen their marriage. God, we need your help in this, and so we ask and are confident that you will give it, and we pray this all in your son's name. Amen.